ready to process 100 pounds of grapes today, which really is not that many. There's about 25 pounds in each of these boxes. And I'm going to process them by a steam method using the Norpro juicer steamer. And the bottom of the steamer looks like this. A stainless steel pan. You'll see the little divot here, which will become obvious in a little bit what that's for. I have this filled to water about 2/3 to 3/4 full. Once this gets hot and begins to boil, if it's too full, it'll boil over. But it's very important in the entire process that this bottom pan has water. It never runs dry, or you can actually ruin your equipment. All right, continuing in the grape processing. I pointed out the bottom pot here of the steamer, and I'm going to show you the other pieces. This is the next piece that fits on top of the bottom pan. You'll notice there's a hole in the bottom, and then there's also a small hole in the side. There's a rubber tube that attaches to that hole, comes down here to a nozzle, and then there's a clamp that fits on that hose. And I found with this particular steamer, you really want the hose to fit all the way as far as you can to the innermost part of the clamp. Like that. Placing the hose here, sometimes the hose doesn't crimp tightly enough, and then you'll have grape juice leaking on the floor. Speaking of, in the process of preparation, it is a good idea to keep a rag on the floor here, because inevitably you are going to spill a little bit of grape juice on the floor. Sometimes when I'm processing a lot of grapes, 300 or 400 pounds, I actually do this method outside because it can get messy, but with only 100 pounds, I'm just gonna process inside. So now I've got something to catch any drips that might happen on the floor. Okay, this piece here is where the grape juice is actually going to collect. So the water in the first pot will come up through this hole that will create steam, which will then come through the holes in the top container of the steamer, and this is where the grapes are located. The steam comes up through the holes, bursts the grapes, the juice then comes down into the second pot, collects, and once it reaches the level of the hole where the tube is attached, you'll see the grape juice start to collect here, and then you can fill it into your jar. The other preparation work that I've done is I have sterilized some jars. I will be doing more, but I like to do them in my dishwasher. I had room for 7, so I've got a good start here. Once the juicer is loaded up with grapes, as the water is boiling and the grapes are bursting from the steam, the juice is collecting, I'll have some time. So I'll be doing other things, probably folding laundry, etc. But I'll also be unloading my dishwasher and putting more jars in there to sterilize as I keep doing batch after batch. So I've got my lids and my rings. They are soaking, not in boiling, just hot water. Actually don't need a funnel for this process. And then here you can see my grapes. I've got the first box here ready. And then I have filled up a colander with grapes. The particular grapes we got are Concord grapes, and the grower didn't use any spray on them. That's not uncommon. Concord grapes usually don't require a lot of spray. They're hardy. And that's another advantage to this, is that we're getting basically organic grapes. So I don't spend a lot of time rinsing these, because they are going to get sterilized in the process in the steamer as well. You'll also notice I don't take the time to remove the stems. So that's all I do for rinsing. Transfer them over here to this bowl. And then I'll begin loading up this hopper on the top. And it'll take several batches of clean grapes, because you really want this just as full as you can make it. And then the one other thing I've done in preparation is I've laid out a towel on my dining room table. Once a jar is filled with grape juice, I've put the lid and the ring on it. I'm just going to set the jar on this towel, and within a minute or two, it will seal on its own because the juice is so hot. All right, the grapes have been processing for a while. You can see what was really a full pot is now decreased, but they'll still shrink up even more than that. Right now I'm going to put the first batch of grape juice in the jar. One thing I noticed initially is that the color of this juice doesn't seem to be quite as dark as I'm used to. I don't know if that's going to affect the flavor at all. We used to always get our Concord grapes from Washington State, and about 4 years ago we moved to the Midwest, and these Concord grapes came from Wisconsin. So we'll just have to wait and see how that turns out. So you notice that there's about a 1/2 inch headspace there. Then I put the hot lid and ring on the jar. Make sure you're using pot holders. The jar is very, very hot. I'm gonna give this a good twist, since we're not going to be putting it in the water bath canner. And then I'll take the jar and set it here on the towel that I showed you earlier. And within a minute or so, we'll probably hear a pop, and there'll be a seal on that one. And this one's now done, and I'm ready to go ahead and fill up another jar.